It's a very exciting time for MassoniArt. We have decided to open a new space, as you said, and it's kind of a roundabout decision that I came to. I was invited to a 4th of July party, and when I got to it, there were all these wonderful new people who've just purchased houses in Chestertown or moved their businesses here. And I was being introduced to people, and oftentimes someone would say, well, you know, what do you do? And my brother or someone handy would say, well, she has the gallery in town. And they would go, oh, really? What gallery? And I would say, well, you know, the one over there on High Street, MassoniArt. Where? And over Evergreen. Where? You know, and I realized all of these new people coming into town really had no idea where I was. Now, when you are almost the oldest gallery in town, this is a bit disturbing because it's like, wait a minute, I've been here a very long time and you don't know where I am. I had been aware of this and started to put some changes in place, probably, I would say, last March. I knew that it would help if I enhanced the staircase here at the High Street Gallery, and I invited Rob Glebe and Vico to do some railings for me, and convinced my landlord that it was time to repaint the front door and perhaps paint the shutters upstairs the same color to draw your eye upstairs. So I'd known that I was going to have to do something, but this 4th of July really was a bit of a turnaround for me, and I just decided, well, let me go over and just stand in that create space and see what I can create. And I thought, you know, I really shouldn't let this opportunity go. So I called the landlord and I said, you know, would you be willing to rent it to me? And understanding that it will be a gallery and it will be open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And is that acceptable in terms of what your vision is for the downtown? And very happily, the answer was yes. And I called a couple of people I trust and said, what do you think of this idea? And got the A-OK from the ones that mattered, family, accountant, and my wonderful landlord here on High Street. It was important that everyone understand that I'm not giving up 203 High Street. What's happening now is the gallery is going to have 2 spaces. One of the things we're going to do here at High Street is really focus on our exhibitions taking place here. And this, again, is another reason why I needed an additional place. When we put together an exhibit here, it's a lot of work. And it takes usually a good 2 weeks in order to be able to take the work down, paint the gallery, coordinate the delivery of the new work, get the older paintings out of here, bring the new pieces and get them up on the wall. And we were trying to get that done oftentimes in a week to 10 days, and it's really impossible to do it and do it well. When I would close down the gallery as we were preparing for a new show, you know, it's closed, and people would come by and say, well, you know, you're never open. Well, it's always hard to hear that when you know you're basically working 7 days a week. So, you know, that you're never open became, I realize that's a significant issue because you don't come back to a place if you don't think they have standard hours. As I thought about this, it became very clear that by doing the exhibits in the High Street space, it would enable me to have Cross Street really operate as a full-time gallery. There will always be work on the wall and there will always be a person in there to greet you. And I think this is going to work out well for everyone. The other issue that I had been running into is that the High Street space is not handicapped accessible. And this is not something that the landlord can do anything about. We have investigated it, and it's just not cost efficient to try and put an elevator in this older building. But it saddens me that some of my favorite people in this town can't come see these exhibits, and they're the very people who would love them more than anyone else. So knowing I have Cross Street, if a client of mine would like me to bring a piece from one place to the other, I will always do it. This is a no-brainer from now on. You want to see the work, I will make sure that it's available and that you can get in the gallery to see it. And I'm excited about that. But usually when I'm doing exhibits, I would often have a group show. So 5 or 6 of my gallery artists would be exhibiting around a particular theme. And then other artists would not be on the wall at that time, but they will be over at Cross Street. This is particularly important because there's a handful of artists that I represent on a pretty much full-time basis. And I just feel like I want anyone coming to the gallery for the very first time to be able to see the range of the artists that we represent. Well, after Marcy comes Downrigging, and Downrigging means Marc Castelli. And Marc works, flat out for a year to produce his show, and this year's show is absolutely stunning. I'm also incredibly touched that Marc and his wife Phyllis are dedicating the show to my husband Al. Losing Al has been probably the most significant thing that I have ever gone through, and in many cases, all the books you read will say, don't do anything your first year. But this gallery and the artists that I work with have sustained me for the 35 years I've done this work, and there's really no other place I'd rather be. So,
this painting is called Parabola, and the title of the show is Geometries. And I was thinking about what is the commonality in all these paintings. And I remember being a kid. That comes up a lot when I think about my work, is how I felt as a kid. And I just love geometry. I wasn't nuts about algebra, and I could do it, but it wasn't nearly as much fun as geometry because I got to draw. I got to make these shapes. I got to figure out why a triangle is half of a rectangle. And then when I started doing more advanced math, I loved plotting graphs. So this parabola, this great shape that comes across here, it reminds me of those plotting the graphs and how, also with COVID, we've been looking at a lot of graphs lately. So I kind of felt that was what was going on in this piece, and I simplified and simplified and simplified so that it's really down to the bare bones. And in this one, the light's burning through in a lot of these shapes as well. You can see where they kind of stop and start. In this one, for example, it's orange, then it's green, then it's orange again, and then it's blue. And they're kind of vibrating because the color changes. And the light that is coming through here is, I think of it as, it's not real. It didn't look that way in the photograph, but it was something I wanted to show. I love the idea of burning, something burning through. So that's what was going on here. And then you also have the dichotomy between, it's not really dichotomy, it's a contrast between the warm upper part of the painting and the cool lower part of the painting. And they were stretching and reaching and trying to connect. So in a way, it's pretty psychological. It's not real. It doesn't look like anything you've ever seen, but it's very real to me. And it also makes me feel like I'm answering my own questions when I'm painting. And every artist does that. Why are you painting? I don't know, because it does something for me. It puts me in the right place.